My name is Ken Martin from Santa Maria, California. I make toys for a living. We like to pick out toys, first of all, that we can make, and secondly, that we think will be fun. And when I saw the NATO tank carrier, I thought this would be fun to make. So as we started, I decided I'd make 3 different ones. Some people have been talking about the burning techniques and how we do that. And so I wanted to show you a vehicle that was burnt. They painted, it's not painted, it's just burnt here. This vehicle, the blue and black, is made of MDF and spray painted. And this vehicle is different woods, some MDF, some plain wood, all scraps. And it's done completely with craft paints and brush painting. So we'll talk about all 3 here in a minute. The first of the NATO tank carriers we built is we wanted to build with wood and the burning technique. So these 3 pieces of wood are all the same piece. We burnt this in an oven. We burnt this in an oven, and this one. We burnt the center pieces in the ovens and the outside pieces and the trailer pieces. So we'll show you a little bit about how we did that. It's a fun technique to do. The finish is just polyurethane, so there's nothing else on it yet except it's all natural wood and polyurethane. We're going to start the outside edge, and like I said, this side is the waist side around the outside. I like to start somewhere flat so that I can, if I make a mistake when I meet back up here or have a ridge, I can sand it out. And we're going to cut very, very slow. As long as the lines are pleasing and they're rounded, they'll be okay. So this is the template. The next step is to go ahead and cut this piece out on the piece of wood. One more point about putting the tape over this. You don't need it to make this cut, but it makes it cleaner along the edges, and there's no edge cleanup to do. I like that. It makes it easier to work. Also, if you notice right here in the holes, the hole is still there. I'm not going to cut this out yet. I'm going to wait until I have it on the wood, and then I'm going to use a pointy needle press just to make that hole in the wood that'll mark where I want this hole to line up. Usually when I'm doing this, I put a straight edge across these holes and make a mark with a ruler so I get these straight. It really sucks when this hole, it might be a little higher and your wheel here is off the ground. Another very easy, effective way to put a template on your wood. You've got your template, and to use the Elmer's rubber cement. Very easy, very quick. Okay, just a nice even coat, and then apply your pattern. Smooth it out from the inside out. Small patterns are not a big deal. You can just do it with your hands. A lot of people like to use a rubber scraper or a credit card. That'll work as well. You can do this, then take your piece to the scroll saw, cut it out, or you can tape it first. The blade cuts a little easier. So we're going to take a palm sander and just sand over this, and you've got your wood clean and ready. Easy, clean way to put a pattern on. We just finished, but I realized that this piece, number 3, is the same as number 4. so I really don't have to cut out number 4. I can use number 3 for both 3 and 4 as a template. The same way we did with the body of the truck, we need to make 1 of part 17 and 2 of part 16. But I can use the same template because they're the same shape. And then we'll just put in the little different cutouts that each part needs. So we're done with making the templates. The next step will be getting it on the woods or the MDF that we're going to use. We've picked out the wood we want to use. We're going to make 3 of these to start with. So the first one is going to be from plain wood, fine grain. The second one I'm going to paint, so I'm going to make it out of MDF. Here's the 3/4 and 1/2 inch. And the third one will be out of Baltic birch, whether I paint it or leave it plain. I've got to get this 1/4 inch cut right now and get this glued together because I need a 1/2 inch of this. So I'm going to do that first, and then we'll start putting the patterns on the wood. Here you see the first set of wood that's ready to go. We've got it all marked out on the 3/4 piece. The first section will be these parts. They're ready to cut, and then I'll cut section 2 will be the fenders or the side of the body. And then section 3, I'm going to cut it out along this dotted line as I get to it, but this is section 4. So I will cut these out as we go. The side skirts on the tank, part number 9, I'm going to stack cut them so the second piece of wood is not marked because it'll be stacked under this piece. And that means I'll have enough for 4 tanks when I'm done with this little piece of wood. This is the first set of wood. We will mark in the same way on the MDF and the same way on the Baltic birch plywood. When I started this cut, I took a still photo of the 3 pieces in the 3/4 inch. And the debate would be, do we cut this stack cutting or do we cut it individual pieces at a time? If you're going to cut it individual pieces, you've got to get very, very close because they're going to be side by side. There's going to be a centerpiece in here, but I think for my purposes this cut is close enough. I'm happy with the way it came out. I started feeling some resistance in the blade while I was cutting, so it's definitely time to change the blade. There's just a little bit there, but when we sand over the edges, this is going to fit together perfectly, I think. This is the next piece to cut out, and I wanted to cut this board in half so that I didn't have to work so much on the scroll saw with a big piece. So I'm going to cut along this dotted line, and I'm going to cut it like this through here and try to miss all the parts. Well, then I'll end up with a board 3 and a board 4 that'll be much easier to handle on the scroll saw. Well, I did say the blade was getting old and I was going to make this last cut, but the blade didn't make it. The tension let loose and bent the blade. So I'm going to put in a new blade. No, I'm going to put in another old blade and finish this cut, and then I'll start a new blade for the next one. But anyway, stuff happens. You just have to adjust and go on. Luckily it's wood and you can fix anything. The drama of cutting this board in half with the broken blade did not work out quite as well as I wanted to. The blade broke right at the hood of that truck and the beginning of the cut for this piece, the outside piece of the body. So I redrew the body over here and we'll cut it out there. The first of the NATO tank carriers we built we wanted to build with wood and the burning technique. So these three pieces of wood are all the same piece. We burnt this in an oven. We burnt this in an oven, and this one. We burnt the center pieces in the ovens and the outside pieces and the trailer pieces. So we'll show you a little bit about how we did that. It's a fun technique to do. The finish is just polyurethane. We've been cutting out some of the parts for the NATO tank carrier. I decided that I wanted to try to burn the middle sections of the tank and the truck. So what I've done is I've put in all the parts here for that. I'm going to take them to the little toaster oven that we use and see if we can toast these dark, and then we'll put the natural wood beside them and see how this comes out. We've got a little toaster oven that is right here, and what we're going to do is put all the parts in. We'll burn the wood at 400 degrees and we'll check it every half hour. We put the thinner pieces up front because we're going to have to watch these closer. The two pieces there and the turret top, because it has a lot of holes in it. So they will burn quicker. So we'll keep an eye on them. It's been half an hour and our timers just went off. It's going to be very hard for you to see it, but they're not ready yet. So we're going to put them in for another half hour and just leave them sit here, and then we'll check them again. With an oven full like this, these little ovens, sometimes it'll take up to 2 hours. If you start to smell it real strong, you know it's getting done. If you see smoke, you might want to check it. The bell just went off for the second half hour. I put up the tray on top of the oven, turned them all over. The one piece that's not doing very well is this front little piece here. I thought would burn quicker, but it's not doing anything, so it may take more time than anything. But they're going to go back in the oven and we'll set it again. Now we start watching every 15 minutes. It's been an hour and a half and the buzzer is just about to go off. We're going to open it up and check to see what they look like now. Well, they look pretty good. Yeah, that's plenty dark for what we're trying to do. The original pieces when we started, remember, looked like that. So this is it. We got it done. Now the interesting part about doing this wood burning is when I sand this, I don't have to worry about sanding off the color because it is baked all the way through the wood, which makes it awesome. So you can sand away, and if you have to cut it, it'll be just fine. These are very hot right now, but so we just let it cool for a while, and then we go to check the fit. Sometimes when you burn these, you'll get a little shrinkage and stuff, but I think everything will be cool, really good. I think they're going to be pretty neat if you look see how much color it has changed. It makes a great effect. One little tip I wanted to share with you. We just cut the gun barrel for the tank. It's 4 inches long, and we cut it on the bandsaw, which leaves some little edges and that type of thing. But one of my favorite tools is an emery board, file board. These are very inexpensive unless you buy them at a wood store, but you can buy them at the dollar store or a lot of places, and they work really well. So I just take the file and just file it real quick and then run it flat around the edges to take the burrs off, and that's all I do because I don't want to change the shape because it's got to fit in the hole for the gun barrel. But it's real quick and easy, and I do this almost for all my dowels. Almost everything I use. When you're done, if you want to buff them, these buffing pads that are made for buffing nails are awesome. You can just buff away and they give you a really nice finish. Again, it's quick, it's easy on the hands, and then if you want to finish it, if you're doing something, this is a finer sandpaper. I've always found with regular sandpaper I was sanding too much in one place and taking the round off my edge here. So I like doing this and just turning it as I go. Makes it quick and easy. The last thing I like to do before I start sanding is make sure I have all the parts cut. So I just line them up almost like the plan looks like and set them out so that I make sure that I have everything. All the holes are cut. Everything's ready. Now I'm going to take these and start sanding them. And during this process I always cut extras, and the extras I leave in little plastic bags, and they're marked with the part number and what the part is for. Also, extra parts have been cut, bigger pieces. All of the extra parts and the template, any of the parts that don't get used for this set, will go into a project box that I keep, and keep all the parts for next time. These are the three main body parts that need to be sanded: the truck and the tank and the trailer. So what I'm going to try to do today is just sand the edges, get them all rounded, and then I will glue the parts together. This one's almost done. You can see what I'm trying to do, I think. I just want the edges rounded over a little bit so they kind of look even. Then I'll glue the pieces together, and while it's drying I'll sand the edges of the body parts on the tank, glue it together, and then sand the edges of the trailer and glue it together. By then I'll be able to come back to the truck and sand the body. That way all the parts will kind of match, I hope. So that's the plan. One interesting thing about painting or sanding on the burnt wood parts, you can see how dark they are. I would recommend not wearing a white shirt. I wear older clothes when I'm trying to sand the burnt wood parts. They're going to come out really pretty though, and when finished, it's a neat little trick, and hopefully when we're done with this, we'll be able to show you the effect it has on bare wood when it's finished. This is the tank body, or two parts of the tank body. I have it glued, the two parts, the middle and one side, just clamped to my workbench. I could not hold the three pieces and get them in the right place very easily, so I'm giving this a try to see how this works. On the truck body, I was able to glue all three parts together at one time because I had enough flat surface to hold it easy, and then get the fenders on and put the details on. We sanded all these edges so we would have kind of a curved edge even inside. Sometimes you might get a little glue out down in that edge. So what I like to do is take an old brush that's kind of frazzled, and I will just really brush that edge hard till I get all the glue off the sides. And then there might be just a little bit of residue, not in this case, but if there's a little residue down in the crack, just take a X-Acto knife and just run it down the crack one time. You don't want to cut the edge or scratch the edge. If you have any glue on it, you'll get it on the blade, or you'll get the little pieces right along the edges, and then you can take your brush and brush it out again, your damp brush. If you get too much water on it, just wipe it down. Now you're good to go, and the crack will be nice and clean when it dries. Just a tip to help clear the cracks before you let it sit too long, and then you have that glue, because once you start covering it with a finish, you will always see it. All the parts to the truck have now been finished and sanded and wiped off, and they're ready for their first coat of poly. So what I like to do is do the first coat with a brush on. In this case I'm going to use the Minwax, and I'll put the first coat on And then put in all the little pieces. And then once all that's in and dry, I'll use a spray for the second coat. Same product, but in a spray form. For me, it's easier to brush these body parts without all the little parts in them, the headlights, taillights. All of those little parts snag the brush and create drips. And then when I have all the little parts in, that's when I like to spray with the spray poly, because I can spray on a real light coat and cover all the corners and edges, and if I need to put on a second coat I can. Okay, well, we finished the first coat of the poly on the major parts, the truck and the trailer and the tank and the tank turret. I have them kind of hanging up on my side of my workbench so I don't touch them, but this way I was able to get all the parts painted at one time. So once I got finished with the wheels, which are outside, then I set my timer on my phone for an hour. I will come back in an hour and start sanding this first coat and see how it looks and deciding whether I need to put on a second coat. But today we're using the Midwax Hellmann's poly. I set a table, ice chest up, a little turntable, then a board. On the board I've set up these pegs all the way around, and the reason I do that is so that I can put the wheels on and I can spray multiples at a time. What I like to do is have them lined up like this, and then with the spray I'm going to spray, 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 spray. Then I turn the table and basically do the same thing again. Spray, 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 spray. Turn the table and do it again. Spray, 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 spray. And then I come back and spray, 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 spray across the top. Then we spray them from 4 sides on one row, and then we'll go to the second row and do the same thing. Then we'll go to the third row, and then we'll go to the fourth row. Then when the wheels are dry, they're still wet right now because we just did this, but I'll turn them over and do the same exact thing from the other side, because the grooves in here I'm actually spraying down, so I'm getting a good spray on this side, but really not on the other side until I have them turned over and I do the same process from the other side. I've done the whole thing, front and back, all the sides. Then I turn them back over to this side again and do one more spray across and across, going 2 directions, this way and this way. That way I cover it again, give it a second coat across the face of the wheels, which are going to be the main part that are going to show. If I can do these days ahead before I'm assembling the toy, it's much, much better. This stuff can be kind of slow to cure sometimes, so the longer it sits, and this is almost true with any paint, if you leave it sit for 2 or 3 days and then start to put it together, you're going to be a whole lot better off. Now, when this toy does come together, all the wheels are on and everything's done, it's still going to get a coat of Cynthia's Beeswax mineral oil paste. I want that on there as the final coat because I don't want fingerprints to show up on the toy that can't be wiped off. So basically that's what we do, and then when we're ready to ship a toy, it gets another coat of beeswax when we're finished. I used pine in the middle and burned it, and have a fairly smooth surface because it's fine grained wood. On the outside edges, this here and over here, I used poplar, which is not a fine grained wood, but I want it to be real smooth and nice like the middle. Well, that's not going to happen. I can get it shiny and I can make it look good, but if you want it to be smooth and have a nice even finish like the middle does, you can't use a wide grain wood if you're just going to use poly or varnish or whatever you're going to use. I've sanded the second coat down over here and it looks a little better. I'll sand this coat down and then apply another coat to the top, see if I can get it a little more even. But it's always going to show the wood grain because it's wide grain. Just something to think about when you're picking your woods in the beginning. It's a fun technique to do. The finish is just polyurethane, so there's nothing else on it yet except it's all natural wood and polyurethane. We did learn one thing on building this one, was pointed out, Judy pointed out to me. In fact, we built this one like the plan said, and everything works like it's supposed to. But this slides off of here pretty easy. There's a ramp back here to keep it, but we thought if we cut grooves in here to hold the tank, it would work better, and we did that on the other two. So that's a modification we'll talk about in a minute. The second NATO tank carrier we built, we wanted to spray paint because that's what I like to do. I like to spray paint. That's my favorite way to paint. So since we're spray painting, we made this one out of MDF, and we were going to paint it blue and silver. The silver did not work very well, so we changed it to black. So this truck is has been painted with Krylon spray paint, and the gun now has a hole in the middle. That's another for a gun barrel, so we added that. Also, we added the grooves here, so the tank will sit on the truck when it moves without falling off. That's one thing we did. We do have the painted lights and headlights. This is NATO tank carrier number 3. This is the one that is built from all scraps, pieces of a little bit of everything. There's some MDF on the sides, and there's 2 different kinds of wood through the middle of the truck. It's scroll sawed out in all the different parts. Everything's scroll sawed here. We put it together, and then we primed it a gray, Krylon's brush on gray, and then we painted the tan with craft paint. And we wanted to do all this with brush on paints. Even though I live in California, can work outside most of the time, I know a lot of folks can't. So this is one, we showed some techniques on how we painted this, how we buffed the parts. If you paint with craft paint and then buff out the finish before you add the next color, you can get a real shiny finish even with just simple craft paints. These paints cost me $1.29 at the Michaels. So what we did was we learned to paint. We painted the base first. We did 2 coats and sanded it. Then we put on with a fairly big brush, the second tan color. Then we went to a smaller brush for the browns, and sadly we found that we had to put 2 coats of brown on. So that meant, just like painting anything else, when you paint this brown and then you go back, you're going to have to buff this out or sand this out. And so this got sanded again or buffed again. So 2 coats of brown, and then we went back and put the black edging around everything. It's very time consuming, but I think, as you can see, it's kind of a nifty little, it looks kind of cute. And again, we did the headlights so they show pretty well, and it's got its tail lights, and again the tracks here, so this rolls in here and sits there.
We're Ken and Susie Martin of Santa Maria, California. We own Fuzzy Duck Creations. We invite you to buy our toys. We build toys that kids love and parents trust.